First, welcome to LC Academy and welcome back to our front-end development journey. In the previous video, we can learn about what is CSS fundamentals, what are the ways to add CSS and CSS font styles and many other things. In this video, we can learn about what is CSS grid system. Okay guys, let's get into the video. Now, let's talk about CSS grid, one of the most powerful layout system in CSS. CSS is a grid system is a two-dimensional layout system. That means it can handle both row and column at the same time. Unlike Flexbox, which mainly works one of the direction, CSS grids gives us complete control over the entire page layout. Okay, like it's commonly grid system used for creating a website structure like header, sidebar, content section and footers. To start using grid system, we simply set the containers display property to grid. That we can define how many rows and columns we want to using grid property. Simply tell, CSS grids helps to create a clean, organized and responsive layout much more easily. Okay, this is the grid system. Okay, this is the grid system diagram. Before moving further, let's understand first of all basic part of CSS grid system. The outer of the box is called grid container. This gray color outer of the box is called container. Okay. Inside of the container we have a rows and columns. Okay. That space is called grid. Okay, the row and columns before in the space is called grid. And a collection of multiple cells can form a grid area. The collection of rows and columns can form a grid area. Okay, the line that separate rows and columns are called grid lines. Okay, the black color lines you can see in the diagram, that is called grid lines. Okay, and the space between the two lines, the space between the two line is called grid track. Okay, the space between the two line is grid track. Understanding these forms will make it easier to work CSS grid system. You can clearly understand the grid diagram. You can easily work with grid system. Okay. Columns and rows. The most important things in grid system is columns and row. Okay. Now let's see how to create a rows and column in a grid system. We use the property grid templates columns to a defined width of columns. For an example, we can create a column with a fixed size like 20 pixels or flexible size. If you want which type of column you can need, you can change your pixel values. Okay, using the FAR units. The FAR units, the FR means the FR stands for fractional units. Okay, the fractional units helps to describe the availability of space quality. Okay, it's take remaining the space, and then similarly grid templates rows. First we see what is grid templates column. Now it's a grid templates row. The grid templates row used for define the row heights. Okay, define the row heights, and then rows can have a fixed height or adjust automatically based on the content. A row was flexible. Automatically we can change in our requirement. Okay, and to save time, at the same time we can use repeat function we can use a repeat function to create a multiple columns or rows with the same size. Okay. First of all, rows and columns, grid template columns and grid templates row. Okay. And then the repeat function. When working with grid, we often create a column of the same size. Instead of writing the same value in multiple times, we can use a repeat function. Okay. For an example, repeat 3 times with 100 pixels, create a 3 equal columns. Okay, this makes code shorter, clear, and easier to maintain. You can use a grid system. Your website's layouts or website's style will be very clear, easier, and very shorter. It's not a messy. Okay, we can also combine repeat with flexible units like FR. FR is the fractional unit. Sorry. FR is the correct. FR is the fractional units. Okay. It is mostly used for grid systems. We can also combine repeat with the flexible units like FR. And for responsive layouts, it's commonly used with a minimax and autofit to automatically adjust the column based screen size. Okay, you can automatically adjust the column based screen size. So the repeated function helps to write the clear, more efficient grid codes. Okay, and then named grid lines and areas. We can already see what is grid lines and what is area in that grid diagram. Okay, CSS grid also allows gives names to grids like grids lines and grids areas. Instead of remembering columns numbers, we can use meaningful names like sidebar, header, or main contents. This makes the layout easier to understand and manageable. Okay, and even better approach is using grid templates area. Here we visually define structure of our page using names. We usually define structure for our page using names. For an example, we can create a layout with a header at the top. You can imagine you can create a layout with the header of the top and the sidebar of your left side and the main content on your area beside it. Okay, it makes our grid layout much more readable and developer friendly because you can use the code and you can use the web page in more times, so it's a user friendly and developer friendly. Okay, next one is align item in grid. Now let's learn how to align items inside the grid cell. This justify items like property controls the horizontal alignments. It can place items at the start, center, end, or stretch them fill the space. Okay. The align items property control vertical alignments. If we want to control both direction together, we can use place items. Okay, and then individual items we can use justify self and align self. These properties give us a precise control over how content is positioned inside each grid cells. Aligning the whole grid. So far we have a aligned item inside the cells. But what if we want move the center grid itself. For what? We use justify contents and align contents. Justify contents control the horizontal positions of the entire grid inside the container. uh, you can use justify content for the purpose of aligning which side you want. If you want your content, you can use justify content. Okay. And the align content controls. Justify contents manage the horizontal positions, and justify contents align the justify contents manage the horizontal position, and align contents control the vertical positions. Okay, these properties becomes useful when the grid is smaller than the container. For an example, we can center the whole grid or add equal spacing around it. This helps to balance and professional looking for the layout. Okay, you can use align item, you can use align content and justify contents. Your websites will very professional looks. It will be enhance your website. Okay. Grid versus Flexbox. A common question: should we use grid or Flexbox? The answer depends on the layout we need. What type of layout you can need, that purpose which requirement you need, you can use your own. Like you need a grid box, you can use, or if you need a flex box, you can use your own. Okay. If we are designing the complete web page layout with rows and columns, CSS grid usually the best choice. Okay. If you are arranging the items like a single direction, like navigation, menus, buttons, or cards, you can choose the flex box. Often similar. Okay. In real world project, developers use both together. Grid is used to overall page structure. Okay. And Flexbox is used to the smaller component inside the structure. Like grid system is used for your whole project structure, but the Flexbox is used to the smaller part of in your inside of your structure. Okay, so inside the thinking of them comparisons, think grids and flex as a tool for work together for a developer. Okay. Okay, guys, I hope you can understand what is grid system and what is flexbox. This is the CSS grid fundamentals. We can see in the next video. Thank you for watching LC Academy. Thank you.